Alright, so this is the first of 2 videos on graphing logs. Before we can graph logs, we have to understand what logarithms are. Logarithms are inverses of exponentials. And that is the fact, this is what we're going to use to be able to graph these things. Because remember, you cannot type log base 3 into a calculator and get out a solution. So we're going to have to set them up as exponentials. Now I'm going to go through a process right here to kind of show you how this works, and then I'm going to give you the shortcut answer to how this is going to go down. With inverses, inverse simply means swap x and y's. So x equals log base 3, y plus 1. Now we're solving for y, okay? So we've swapped x and y, we're solving for y. So rewrite this as an exponential, 3 to the x equals y plus 1. Subtract that across. Y equals 3 to the x minus 1. One thing I want you to notice, it was x plus 1, now it's minus 1, okay? Also notice the location of it. It was being grouped with the x. Down here, it is separate from the x. So let's see what happens with an equation like this. Before I can rewrite this one as an exponential, I have to get, well, let's swap x and y first. So x equals log base 3, y plus 1. So now, to rewrite the log, I have to get rid of this piece first. So x minus 1 equals log base 3 of y. Now rewrite it as an exponential. 3 to the x minus 1 equals y. Well, let's look what happened with this one. The 1 was not being paired with the x, okay? It was a positive 1, it was not paired with the x. In the final answer, which is the inverse, it is being paired with the x, and it's also changed sign. So, here's our rule. That was an explanation of why this rule works, but here's our rule. First, you're always going to change the sign. Okay, so if it was a positive, it becomes a negative. If it's negative, it becomes a positive. Second thing, you're going to change its location. In other words, if it was grouped, and now it's not grouped. If it was not grouped, now it's grouped, okay? Change sign, change location. So here's a practice problem. Let's say we have y equals log base 5, x plus 2, minus 3. All right? So here's how this works. So the inverse, y inverse. Make sure you're making a notation of that. That way we're not getting confused. So the inverse function, the base is 5. So 5 to the x. Now, change sign, change position. This was being grouped with the x, so it's no longer going to be grouped, and we have to change its sign. So we put minus 2. This was not being grouped with the x, so now it needs to be grouped, and we change its sign, plus 3. So that is the inverse. Let me give you one to try on your own. I would like for you to go ahead and put the pause button on and find the inverse of this. Hopefully you practice this problem. If not, again, hit the pause button, try it on your own. So the inverse, the base was 9, so we have 9 to the x. Now, change sign, change position. Change sign, change position, so plus 1 down at the bottom, minus 2 up at the top. So that's the inverse, okay? You're going to have a couple of practice problems over finding the inverses. Remember, if it's just log, then it's base 10. So log really equals log base 10. If it's natural log, then that just really means log base e. That might come up sometimes whenever you're trying to find the inverses. Just use those as the bases. All right, so you'll do a couple of practice problems with this. Once you get the practice problems with this done, go and watch the second video on how to graph logs.